only time I want a mask on my face is when you see I turning up the place. So when they open the road, we go trample it. Find yourself in a band, then dismantle it. When they open the road, we go trample it. You in charge of it, we in charge of it. Yeah, this new way. They want we party, tell them we say no way. How they want we to enjoy ourselves and be free. Yeah, in these times, we don't have the time because it's our low vibes. How they want we to enjoy ourselves and be free. Yeah, they have a big sign saying social distance. How they want we party with all the restrictions. The only time I want a mask on my face is when you see I turning up the place. So when they open the road, we go trample it. Find yourself in a band, then dismantle it. When they open the road, we go trample it. You in charge of it, we in charge of it. Yeah, cause my name is Johnny Prospect, all you get to know me. Cause this year when I come in, I come hard, I come in hard, 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 hard. Yeah, it's my turn to provide the vibes and that is my concern. Cause this year when I come in, I come hard, 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 hard. Yeah, they have a big sign saying social distance. How they want we party with all the restrictions. The only time I want a mask on my face is when you see I'm turning up the place. So when they open the road, we go trample it. Find yourself in a band, then dismantle it. When they open the road, we go trample it. You in charge of it, we in charge of it. Yeah, hey, they have a
Hey,
saying social distance.
the sound of Johnny Prospects kicking things off tonight on Real Talk. Right here on the night shift to DJ Kevin Steele, track called Big Sign.
Social distance, but all they want we to party with restrictions.
Oh, them want to do that.
Time I want a mask on my face is when you see I turning up the place.
Greetings, and salutations, one and all.
Find yourself in a band, then dismantle it. When they open the road,
How you all doing this evening?
you in charge of it.
Or this morning, or this afternoon? Wherever it is that you're tuning from, whatever time it is there. Welcome to the night shift to DJ Kevin Steele. Want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in, those on TuneIn Radio, those locked in out of New Jersey on NIE Radio. Much love to ya. You're locked in with New Jersey's finest, the Motivator. Remember, you can catch the Motivator on Thursdays with Double Trouble Thursday at 9 p.m. And you can catch him on Saturdays with Saturday what's it called again? It's Double Trouble Saturdays and Motivation. No, Double Trouble Thursdays and Motivation Saturdays. Yeah, having a senior moment. In my junior years, you know it go. You know, as we learned last night, even infants and toddlers can have dementia. So don't take it too simple. Don't take it, just give me a break, yeah? Much love, the Motivator. Job chip. Want to say big up to those who are locked in out of New York. Reggae Pulse Radio. Big up to the Atomic Force crew. Much love to those locked in out of Florida. Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com. With all the restrictions, the only time I want a mask on my face is when you see I turning up the place. So when they open the road, we go trample it. Find yourself in a band, then dismantle it. When they open the road, we go trample it. You in charge of it, think I'm missing something here.
Prospect all you get to know me. Cause this year when I come in, I come hard. Yeah.
Or is it just in my mind?
My turn to provide the vibes, and that is my concern. Cause this year when I come in, I come hard. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Have a big side, same social distance. All the one we party, with all the restrictions. The only time I want a mask on my face is when you say I touch.
Somebody just gave me in fact, let me finish going through this. Big up to those who are locked in on the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com. You can catch Mr. Lindsay at midday every day, Monday through Friday.
Hey, they have a big side, same social distance. All the one we party, with all the restrictions.
Big up to those on PEMGTV.com.
Is when you see I turning up the place.
Those who are locked in right here at the home of the night shift to DJ Kevin Stew, KevinStew.com. Welcome to you.
Find yourself in a band, then this man is when they open the world, we go trample it.
There's some strange things happening, you know.
We in charge of it, yeah. This new way, and when we party, tell them we say no way.
To those who are trying to tune in from YouTube,
And free, yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
In these times, we don't have the time because it's our low vibes. How they want we to enjoy ourselves and be free, yeah.
It's the strangest thing ever.
Our big side, same social distance. All the one we party, with all the restrictions. The only time I want a mask on my face is when you see I turning up.
It says it's waiting.
They open the road, we go trample it.
I'm sending.
Yourself in a band, then this man says battle it. When they open the road, we go trample it. You in charge of it, we in charge of it, yeah. Cause my name,
I don't know what is happening.
specs all you get to know me. Cause this year when I come in, I come hard. Yeah.
I wish I could tell you guys over there on TuneIn, on YouTube Live,
Cause this year
what exactly is happening. I can't tell you.
yeah. They have a big side, same social distance. All the one we party, with all the restrictions. The only time I want a mask on my face is when you say I'm turning up the place. So when they open the road, we go trample it.
The son of Johnny Prospect.
Then dismantle it. When they open the road, we go trample it. You in charge of it, we in charge of it, yeah. Hey.
The track is called Big Sign, and I don't know if this is a big sign. I really don't know. I don't know what to tell people. Is this a big sign? Maybe I'm just not supposed to use YouTube Live tonight. Hey, it is what it is, and apparently that is what it is. So let me just go ahead and
In these times,
go on with the broadcast, because I can't stop right now to take care of this. So it's just one of the options. You know, there is the player on KevinStew.com. So it is saying that it is waiting. I don't know why it's waiting. Stranger things have happened than on other occasions. It's just what is happening tonight. I didn't say big ups to my segment sponsors, so let me go through and take care of that, because they are important too. I need to big up my segment sponsors. I want to say thank you to Pulse Media Group. When being in a moment is priceless, go ahead and give them a call. They take care of your videos, your photos, your streaming, your advertising. They do everything you see here on KevinStew.com and more. So if you want to stream a live broadcast, a live event, whether it be a church service, a funeral, a party, a graduation, a seminar, you name it, go ahead and connect with Pulse Media Group. 754-999-1140. That's 754-999-1140. Call them and say, hey, listen, I heard Kevin Stew say you can take care of some things for me. I have this event that I want to stream. How can I do it? And they got you. I want to say thank you to Althea and her Healing Heavenly Hands. Althea is a licensed massage therapist operating out of Broad County, North Miami-Dade, and South Palm Beach counties. She comes to you, bringing her table, her oils, and over 20 years massage therapy experience. Go ahead and give her a call today, 954-655-9000, or email her at thealater@att.net. That's THEALATER at ATT.net. She only has one request outside of paying her, and that is get off her table and go sleep somewhere else when she's done. It's called the Kevin Stew Clause. Thank you, Althea. Go ahead and I want to say thank you to Reggae Global Entertainment. Reggae Global acts as your booking agents, handle your tour management, take every business registration, legal service referrals, music production, marketing and promotion, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-804-8199. Or check them out at reggaeglobal.com. Tell them Kevin Stew sent you. I want to say thank you also to McNeil Trucking. McNeil Trucking is a licensed and insured mover in the state of Florida. Go ahead and give them a call, 954-406-9740. With McNeil Trucking, your goods are in good hands. So if you want to move from point A to point B, move some things into storage, don't have the manpower, don't have the equipment, don't have the transportation, no worries, you have the phone number, 954-406-9740. Tell them Kevin Stew sent you.
Restrictions. The only time I want a mask on the face is when you see a turning up the place. So when they open the road, we go trample. Find yourself in a band, then dismantle.
For those of you that want to tune in live to watch a broadcast live, just go ahead and click the play button on the player. As soon as you go on kevinstew.com, you can watch me live. You know that option has always been there. In fact, that's a primary option. The YouTube thing, that's secondary. I'll upload the broadcast to YouTube a little bit later on after we get done, okay? Of course, you're invited to jump into the stew pot. Those of you wondering what the stew pot is what others call a chat room. Just come on over to kevinstew.com. Because we're fancy on kevinstew.com, we call it the stew pot. It keeps things interactive and bubbling over there, you know? Come on in, the water is always fine. You don't need to register. You don't need to sign up. You don't need to offer a blood sacrifice, your firstborn, an internal organ, nothing like that. Just go to kevinstew.com and interact with me. You can remain anonymous if you wish. You can put your name. That way I know who I'm talking with, yeah? Tonight on Real Talk, we're looking at suicidal behaviors. And you know, when you start talking, last week we looked at human behaviors, and you'd think it's pretty much a natural progression. But I was having a discussion with someone today, and they mentioned someone found hanging from a tree. A black man found hanging from a tree in a park behind a police station in Pennsylvania. And you'd think, okay, behind a police station. Okay, there are so many questions to be asked about it. But they're saying suicide. And the point was raised that black men are not in the habit of killing themselves that way. And I thought that was an interesting statement. Because here it is. We just think, or we get the news that someone has committed suicide. And we don't think about things like, wait, people from different races might kill themselves differently. They may choose a particular method if they're male or female. Why would they do that? I don't know if your minds work like mine, but that's what started going through my mind. And of course, I went on a little journey. And my little journey took me here to suicidal behaviors. And us talking about it here on Real Talk. Because these are real things that are happening in our real lives. Like it or not. So if you want to participate in tonight's broadcast, outside of going into the stew pot, you can communicate with me live. You can call. The phone lines are always open. 773-789-STEW. 773-789-7839. Call, text, WhatsApp, Telegram. They all work. So, link up with me. Let me hear from you. The phone lines are open. Tell me your stories about what you know about suicide. What you know, what you've heard about it, what you know about it. Any of the experiences that you've had as it relates to that. I know people who have said, this is it for me. I'm just going to end it here. And they got hospitalized for it. Now, of course, that excuse me. Whoa, that came out of left field. Now, of course, you got to navigate dealing with someone like that in a particular way. I remember in community college, a friend of mine, she was going through some things. I didn't know that she was going through some things. And she decided that she was just going to take a cue of white rum, the real stuff, the good stuff, the strong stuff. What was she doing with a cue of white rum in her bag? I don't know. But there she was with this cue to her head. And I only heard about it after she had done it. And I was one of the few people in the whole school that people thought of to call. Yo, Stu, your friend. And I'm like, which friend? And when they described her, I was like, where? I got to her. We took her to the hospital. And she stayed on a psychiatric ward for about 2 weeks. And the helping process got started. But when we pause for a moment to look differently and ask different questions when it relates to suicidal tendencies, suicidal behaviors, now we start to view the whole world of suicide a little bit differently. And you look at some of the cases that are reported as suicide differently also. But I'm not even going to go down that road too much tonight. According to psychology today, every suicide we know is a tragedy. And to some degree, a mystery. Suicide often stems from a deep feeling of hopelessness, the inability to see solutions to problems or to cope with challenging life circumstances may lead people to see taking their own lives as the only solution to what is really a temporary situation. And most survivors of suicide attempts go on to live full, rewarding lives. And you'd think, boy, here's a person that decides that they're going to end it because they see themselves as a failure. And then they fail at suicide. Ironic, right? But then they move on from that moment to live full, rewarding lives. Does it get any better than that? I don't think it really gets better than that. So, depression is a key risk factor for suicide. Other factors include psychiatric disorders, substance use, chronic pain, a family history of suicide, and a prior suicide attempt. Hey Nadia, how you doing? Impulsiveness often plays a role among adolescents who take their own lives. If a person deemed at risk due to any of the situations we mentioned exhibits sudden mood changes, even a suddenly upbeat mood, or completely new behaviors, they may be actively suicidal. And you'd think, wait, but they're upbeat. Why would they want to say, all right, let me go and end it when they're upbeat? Well, they're thinking about the end and thinking they don't have to deal with this situation anymore. So they are upbeat. Statistically, well, before that, those who speak about being a burden to others, having no reason to live, feeling trapped, or in unbearable pain may also be contemplating suicide. Statistically, suicide occurs more frequently, or most frequently, among people ages 45 to 54. Women are more likely than men to attempt suicide. Men are more likely than women to complete the act. How about that? I wonder why. Do you wonder why? No, again, the average person probably doesn't stop to say, why would it be that more women than men attempt suicide, but more men than women succeed at it? Maybe the method of choice could come into play there. That's a thought. There are many myths about suicide. And one is the mistaken belief that talking about it to a person in danger encourages the act. If a loved one expresses thoughts or plans of suicide, it is essential to initiate a conversation. It is wise to approach the decision by identifying concrete resources such as a therapist or suicide prevention hotline, and to conclude the conversation with a stated commitment to follow up with the person over time. You want to be direct to the person by asking questions like, how are you coping with your challenges? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about dying? Are you thinking about suicide? Have you come up with a plan for taking your own life? These are questions that you bring up to the person that seems suicidal. It's not that you shouldn't talk with someone who is deemed to be suicidal. It is recommended. We have a phone call here before we jump into the break. Greetings and salutations.
Greetings to my favoriteest DJ.
Hey, my favorite is massage therapist.
Oh my goodness. I so did not expect you to take this route on Real Talk tonight.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you know. It stemmed from a discussion I was having with someone today, and this is where it took me.
And you know, I was talking to a personal friend of mine earlier, and they've recently relocated to another state, and I kind of like gave them time to, there are a couple, when I say they, you know, to get acclimated to their new surroundings. And I didn't want to reach out to them because I know that, all right, they're moving from Florida to another state, and anybody who's relocated from Florida to anywhere else It's it takes a process. But
I
we
did it. It was
both
easy. And of course,
okay,
I'm
Mr.
back.
Okay, Mr. Show Off. I'm not sure. And one of these days, I expect you to share the things that made it easy for your initial relocation. But the reason why I decided to reach out to them, we have a mutual friend who, we had a mutual friend who is no longer with us. And I just had, knowing that we've lost this friend, I just really had this urge to reach out to both of them today.
Yeah.
And I was like, I thought that this was the power couple, that they had their stuff all together. And they made this relocation because they had their plans and they were going to move to this new place because they knew exactly what they wanted. Only after discussing with her that this was a survival move. And when she said, when she shared with me, I was like, I was quiet for about 15 seconds. It was like, "Are you still there?" And I said, like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm still here. I just don't know how to respond because I thought that you guys were the power couple that I was looking to. And, I thought that you all had this together. I got, news of this move. And I was under the impression that you all had everything figured out. That's why you made this move." And she started laughing. And I'm like, okay. It was that uncomfortable laugh that you have no idea.
Yeah.
And I share that story only because for those of you who are listening and you have people in your lives that they go through changes, and to us, it might be routine, it might be normal. And you think that only because you're like, okay, if I'm going through it, this is how I would react. I'm here to say that is the biggest misconception, mistake that you can think, because each of us as individuals, as couples, we don't all deal with changes in the same way.
True that.
And speaking from experience, I have been through some stuff, and I'm saying stuff because I don't want you to be kicked off the air. My stuff is a 4-letter word instead of STUFF.
Right.
So what I want to share is that we all, me, you, and whoever else is listening, we may all be going through similar stuff. But the way that we deal with it is going to be like the West Coast in California, which is as different as the East Coast in Florida.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have learned through therapy is 10 people could be going through the exact same situation, but the way that they deal with it is going to create 10 additional ways. No, wait, 10 times 10 is 100 different ways that the outcome could be.
Yeah.
So you know how you have an acquaintance, a friend, a partner, somebody who is close to you that you hadn't spoken to them in a week, a month, depending on the intensity or the level of your relationship. And you'll call them up one day and go, how are you doing? How many times have you actually just, when you ask that question, you just step back and shut up, shut down, and listen to that person to listen to what their response is.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna
It can be pretty daunting at times.
yeah. And the reason why I brought that up is I'm putting myself out there. I was one of those ones who had a script. Hey, DJ Kevin, how you doing? You know what's going on? And not taking the time to
Actually, listen to what's going on.
listen to what's going on.
Yeah. Many
It's
of us
been,
don't.
and I was one of those people who, you know what? I haven't spoken to DJ Kevin in a while. Let me just call up and just touch bases. And like the masses, I'm going to ask that question. Hey, DJ Kevin, how's it going? But not really being prepared to deal with or to even listen to your response.
Well, the objective was to reconnect. It wasn't to really hear what is going on. It's just to make that connecting call to say, hey, letting you know that I haven't forgotten you. We'll get together sometime. We'll talk again sometime. But it ends up being something else.
That's not what I said.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was my intentions, but I didn't make my intentions clear. So I'm going to be like, hey, DJ Kevin, how's it going? What's going on? Expecting you to say, oh, everything's fine. Oh, okay, you know what? I'll be in touch.
Yeah. I can tell you, I have permanently lost touch with 2 people within 4 days. God, most recent being one last night.
And we have that in common, the one last night. And
yeah.
That one last night it hit close to home because this person he was a peaceful soul.
Yeah.
He was, and I'm sure that every person, and this is someone you and I have in common.
Yeah, very much so. I played music with him for a while.
And I was hoping that you would not bring this up because I don't want to get emotional, which I am right now, but this was that person that he literally wore his heart on his sleeve. You didn't have to guess or figure out where he was coming from or what he was up to, because he was that real.
Yeah.
So when we ask that question, how are you? What's going on? Are we really prepared to deal with the response if the person on the other end of that text message or that phone call, we're that person that reached out to them for whatever our reason for reaching out to them is? are we really prepared to deal with their response?
Many are not.
No.
Many are not.
And I learned this the hard way, that I would just take it. For me, it was robotic, and I'm just going to be totally transparent and honest. It was robotic because I just thought that, I hadn't spoken to this person in a while. Let me just call just for the status quo. I consider this person my friend. I hadn't been in touch with them for a while. Let me just call.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? This person needs me. And I was not mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually prepared to be there for them.
It's one of those things that send some people off they're standing at the edge. And
it literally will
that
push
is the
them over.
one thing that gets some people over.
Yeah, just push them over. And I have a coworker who contemplated suicide.
Male or female?
Well, I'm going to share their story because the events that led up to them contemplating suicide involves both.
Okay.
And there is so much stuff going on with people around us. This individual happens to be a transgender.
Okay.
That was born a female, transitioning to a male.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us, based on when we entered this world versus where we are right now, it's a foreign thing for us. We weren't exposed to it previously, but now here we are. We have someone in our lives that we care about. And for whatever reason, this individual decided to trust you and to confide in you about the issues that they're going through.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh dear Lord, wow. It's difficult enough when it's a heterosexual who is having issues with normal heterosexual behaviors that I'm used to.
Quote unquote normal.
Yeah, let me take that out. Yeah, I don't like using that word, normal, because my normal may be 180 degrees from your normal.
Very much so.
So here I am with this individual who's going through something that is not normal. It's not societal norm in today's age. And I'm like, why are you taking this to me? I don't know how to deal with this. I made every excuse that I could.
Right.
Just to be taken out of the equation because it was so uncomfortable for me. And I am like, oh, Lord. And my escape or my way to deal with things that are not comfortable for me, things that are new. And just to share that things that come up in my life now that are not the norm, or that I'm not comfortable, or I'm not aware, or however you want to look at it. I figure I'm being put in this position for a reason.
Okay.
I turn to my faith, and I know that there's a higher power than me. And that's where I go to for my, not necessarily answers, but a way to deal with this uncertainty or this crossroad that I'm experiencing. So to make a long story short, I watch this individual turn to others for answers, for help, for like, listen, guys, I'm drowning. I need a lifeline. And if I don't get this lifeline, I'm just going to check out because I can't see a solution to my issue. I turn to the left. This person is telling me this, but it doesn't make sense. I go in the middle. This person, it can't decide, can't give me a definitive answer. I go to the right. This person is so far to the right that, and this is left wing versus right wing. And I am like, why am I being put in this position? I don't want to deal with this. I had the realization that, you know what? You need to take yourself out of this equation because it's not about you. And I think a lot of times when we're faced with difficult situations and someone who views us as that individual who can not necessarily provide them with a solution to their issue, but to give them an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
The comfortable thing for us is to, oh my God, they came to me. How am I going to deal with this? What are people that I know going to think if I act this way, or if I don't act, or if, when did this issue about somebody else's well-being become about us?
When everything becomes about us.
But they came to us for their issue. How did we figure?
Well, it's all about understanding roles. And a lot of us don't understand what our roles are. We don't understand how to navigate being in certain positions. We just literally don't know. And so,
like I tell you all the time, I bring you my issues and you put it into perspective.
Thank you. But what's more than that is the other questions that we don't seem to be able to ask or even answer.
And is it because that we don't know, or we're just not, we haven't been prepared to deal with it, or we're just so uncomfortable because of the unknown that we don't take that extra step to find out? Or is it all of the above?
Probably a little bit of all. It's probably a little bit of all of the above.
And I am just like, okay, how am I going to deal with this person? Because they have tried other avenues, but they were still going down the path of wanting to take themselves out of the equation by just ending it so they didn't have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's kind of rough, ain't it?
Kinda.
There is no one size fits all to any
No,
of
it
this.
doesn't. No, it does not. And that's where here I am again, therapy. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I went to an expert who didn't know this other individual. And I'm like, all right, this is the situation that's been placed with me. How do I deal with it? I don't want to tell him, oh, go do this. I'm not a therapist. I'm not an expert. I don't know how. Okay, so if anyone who's listening has been put in that situation where you have someone who you care about who is contemplating suicide and you don't have the answers, there's a suicide hotline. There are so many resources out there that you don't have to take this upon yourself to try and figure out what to tell this person. You know what? Encourage them. Tell them how much you care about them. Ask them, listen, I don't have the answers, but I'm going to get it for you.
Well, maybe the question to ask is, how can I help you? What do you want me to do?
You know what? Yes.
We, instead of trying to provide the answers,
Which
just
we
to
may not
ask,
have.
yeah, just
What do you
ask,
need?
what
What do
do
you
you
need from me?
need?
What do you want from me?
You just want an ear? I have two. You can, here you go.
There you go.
And that,
And for me, the mistake, or I wouldn't say mistake, because we try to deal with issues with the information that we have, but what I've done is what I used to do is to use my experiences plus your issues equals disaster if I try to give you advice or I try to direct you or guide you from my experiences.
well, word to the wise when it comes to sharing advice or anything like that, giving an opinion, to make sure to include, this may not work for you, but when I was in this particular situation, which is maybe similar, may not be
This is
similar,
how.
but
Right.
this is how I dealt with this thing.
And how many of us go, well, you know what? I've been through this and this is how I did and this is how.
Well, I'm saying that to say this, instead of going with the, here's what you should do, go with, here's what worked for me.
Right.
You may be conveying the same message, but the delivery is different and it will be received differently.
Hit the nail on the head with the hammer. It's not necessarily the information that you present, but it is the way that you present the information.
But what has led me to really look at tonight's topic, though, is not so much the contemplation of the suicide, but the
The events leading up to the contemplation?
No. The methods, the choices of action that an individual chooses. Genders, how much of a role does gender play when it comes to suicide, the attempts and the completion? And we've touched on a little bit of that at the beginning of it already, because we've learned that more women than men attempt suicide, but more men than women are successful at it.
Yeah, as a female, we have to rationalize everything.
Wait, stop right there. Stop right there.
Okay, I'm stopping. I'm listening.
As a female, we have to rationalize everything.
It has to make sense to us. And
When?
so okay, so let me take 2 steps back.
Okay, go ahead.
The research that you did, does it state the reason why more women contemplate it compared to the facts about why?
We're not talking about contemplation. We're talking about attempts. More women attempt suicide than men. Yes.
Right. Now, does what about the completion of it? Did it say
More
that
men than women are successful?
actually go successful? Does it state the rationality why more women actually contemplate it and more men actually go through with it?
No,
Does it
no. You're mixing up the two. It doesn't say
I
that more
apologize.
women contemplate it. It says more women attempt it,
Attempt it.
which
Okay,
means
so-
they've already gone through the contemplation.
And they decide that, okay, I
They
am going to
have
go through with it.
tried and failed. For whatever reason, they did not see it through to completion. Either
Now-
the method that they chose was one that isn't as conclusive, isn't as effective, I should say, as what the men have chosen.
Right. Now, does in your research, does it state a reason why? Is it different methods that females use, why they're not as...
Yes, and that was where I was going.
Okay. Continue.
That was where I was getting to in a little bit, because
And of course, I had to call and just throw everything off course.
well, you had something on the mind. Here's the thing. According to Very Well Mind, and this was one of the things that got me thinking too, one of the most important reasons for the difference between suicide attempts and completed suicides between men and women is the method. Men tend to choose violent or more lethal methods of suicide.
Does it say why?
The why we haven't gotten into, but the method is the thing, and the why is one of the things that people can go look for. Because again, my job is to stimulate your appetite, not to satisfy your hunger. So you have questions, good. It's important that you have questions, because I don't have all the answers. And so, as it relates to the methods that men would typically choose, going down in favorite to least favorite: firearms, hanging, asphyxiation or suffocation, jumping, moving objects, sharp objects, vehicle exhaust gas. For women, self-poisoning, bleeding out from slitting the wrist,
Splitting the wrist and
drowning, hanging,
Mhm.
and firearms last.
And you know what? I think that now I am not a professional, but from the experiences that I've had, and this is not personal experience, that for females, it's a cry for help. And yes, we may think about the act of ending it all, but is that what we want? Because, oh my goodness, I have kids to think about. I have a significant other. I have this to think about. I have this to think about.
So you're saying the method is not going to be one that is as definitive as a man because
Speaking
they're
from,
thinking about other things.
yeah, and I have contemplated. I have contemplated, and that's all it went to, was contemplating, because I started thinking about. I literally took myself out of the equation, and okay, so I am going through this issue. It is difficult. It is painful. But oh, wait a minute. If I do this, then it's going to affect this, this, and this. How how is this person? I have kids. How are they going to deal with the fact that I'm no longer here? I'm mommy. I'm no longer here. And are they going to take it personal, or are they going to try to do the same thing that I do because they can't deal with the fact that, all right, mommy was going through this and she decided to end it. I'm going through the same things that mommy's going through. So mommy did it, so it was okay for me to. And I think it's like a trickle down effect that when females go through this, being, not to say that males aren't caring and males don't think about others before they make certain decisions, but as a female, I'm going to think of every single situation that could go wrong
So,
if I go through
so
with my initial thought or process to just end this and take me
what?
out of my misery and leave everybody else to deal with the with
Okay,
the.
so you're thinking about fallout after the act.
Yes, and that's how I thought
Okay,
about it.
so this is let's not look at the individual that is thinking about the fallout after the act. We're talking about the individual that has said, okay, I'm going to do this. With men and women, it varies with the method. And the success rate, in I believe, has to do with the method. And because men have chosen more lethal, more deadly methods historically than women have. It could very well be because of availability of weaponry or availability of methods. Some additional information here before before I even look at that a little bit further. Some people may look at the institution of marriage a whole lot differently after this one. Men who were married were more likely to use firearms, whereas men who were unmarried were more likely to die by hanging. When you look at the list, you have hanging being the second on the list, below firearms. unmarried women were less likely to hang themselves than married women. What
Does it
unmarried
state
women
what
chose or married women chose, they didn't say. However,
that? Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. See, that's what I was gonna. That was gonna be my question.
yeah, I figured men with a history of substance use were more likely to die by self poisoning, whereas prior substance use had no impact on self poisoning as a suicide method among women. For both men and women, the likelihood of poisoning was significantly higher among those taking psychiatric medication. So those taking medication to prevent them from doing something like committing suicide, which the side effects of that medication is probably suicidal thoughts, this is the result for them.
And was
They
that
were
male
more
or
likely.
female?
Both
Was that
men
male or
and women.
female?
Both men and women.
Oh, both women. Okay.
Poisoning was significantly higher if they were taking psychiatric medication.
Yeah, they have the weapon of choice in their hands, and
Just well,
it's
we all have medication in our medicine cabinets. You know, anything that you take in excess can be an overdose. We
and
all
that
have
is
some cleaning chemicals under the sink, and we have ways of doing it.
we no, not that
But
we will find ways.
but the thing is, yes, the thing here is though, the method varies between men and women historically.
Men are from women. What it goes? Men
Men
are
from
from
Mars, women from Venus.
yeah.
Now, everybody gets cussed out and be told that they're from Uranus, but we won't even go there. Methods such as
We're
intentional.
dealing with Venus and Mars. Uranus does not play into this discussion.
All right. So, methods such as intentional overdose are more common in those who have been depressed or for an extended period of time. Firearms appear to be more common when people are reacting to acute situations. This would support current recommendations to remove guns from a home in the setting of an acute mental health crisis. Because I'm thinking here it has to do with a heightened sense of a heightened emotion. And in a heightened emotional state, one would go to extremes. And so the extreme here would be the more lethal of choices. Jumping, I believe, would be an extreme thing. But how many of us are in places at that given time where it's easy to jump?
I'm scared of heights, so I will not be. If anyone listening to this broadcast hears that yours truly
Committed suicide by jumping?
by jumping,
It's a lie.
it was not suicide, it's homicide. So get the authorities involved, because I will not be jumping, because I will go to the edge. I will look over and I'll be like, oh, HE double hockey sticks, no way, because I cannot bring myself to get even close to the edge to actually go through with it.
That's interesting, though.
And
Here's why that is interesting.
What's interesting about that?
Because as an individual looking for a method to end everything, here is a method. But because you're afraid of heights, this would not be your method of choice.
No. And
why would it matter? You're ending it. And
you are forgetting who you're talking to. This is about me. This is not about anybody else.
And it kind of sounds morbid. Now that I have asked a question, it sounds morbid to ask a question like that. But in reality, This is what we're going through
Yes,
individually.
individually.
You get a group of us together, you might have some sharing the situation, sharing that commonality. But really and truly, this is what we're going through individually. And to think about something such as this, suicide. So, all right, here's a case in point. Reported, so this the official report was suicide. Former police officer in Bastrop, Texas, Ed Salmela,
Oh Lord.
right-handed, dominantly right-handed, and here he commits suicide
And
allegedly
the
with his left
and the
hand.
bullet with his left hand.
Somebody
That does not.
wanting to commit suicide would want to at least use a method that is sure.
No, you're not gonna. Okay, with this detective, and he wants to commit suicide. Do you think he's gonna sit up there and think, okay, let me rationalize this. I'm left-handed, so let me do this to where it does not seem like. Let me put the gun in my less dominant hand and pull the trigger. No, if you really want to commit suicide, my pea brain at work here, you are not going to sit up there and think of, okay, so
So
I'm
you're gonna go for a
left-handed.
sure thing, right?
Listen, I want to end my misery. I am not going to be sitting up there thinking, okay, I'm left-handed, so if I have to switch that gun, that weapon from my left hand to my right hand to make it to does not to make it seem to make it appear that I didn't commit suicide. Listen, we are going through stuff. We are not going to be sitting up there contemplating, okay, what is going to look, how it's going to appear to whoever comes in after we're gone to start investigating this. Okay, now was this a suicide or was this a homicide?
But here it is. I'm saying this because of the story I started with. As I said, having a discussion, and the person says, "Wow, black man found hanging from a tree, allegedly. Suicide is said to be the cause of death." But and they immediately said, "But typically, black men, specifically black men, would choose a more violent form to commit suicide."
Why?
And I, I guess just like this, historically, this is how men of color would react. And here's the thing.
How
I
far back
found,
does
hold
how
on,
far back does this go?
hold on. I found a graph. There's a statistic, and here it says, where was this statistic from? Let me find it right here. This shows suicide rates by race. Now, this doesn't include methods. This just includes by race.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting. So let me go ahead and share it with you all. Because here we go. And it says your AI is, in this case, it's not artificial intelligence. It's American Indian. And your ANs, those are Alaskan natives. PI is Pacific Islanders. On the left-hand side of this chart, you have the females by race. On the right hand side, you have males by race. At the top of the chart, at 11, and these are the suicide rates. 11 American Indian or Alaskan Native non-Hispanics. 11 per 100,000 would commit suicide. On the male side, you have 33.6.
Right, and it doesn't state the method. This is just overall.
Yeah, this is just the suicide rate by race per 100,000. Right? So you have at the top of the list American Indian, Alaskan Natives. Then you have
non-Hispanic.
White non-Hispanic.
Hispanics.
Then you have white Hispanics. And these are coming down the list. Now, they're not necessarily in number order. Not necessarily. But
wait a second. I'm on the page that you're sharing right now, and there's a significant difference in the AI and the and non-Hispanic versus, and I'm putting myself in the group that I identify with, versus the Black non-Hispanic. There's like a 9% difference.
Yeah,
so almost a 9%.
So you're talking about 11 per 100,000, 11 suicides per 100,000 for your American Indian, Alaskan Natives, non-Hispanic.
Non-Hispanic, right.
Versus 2.8, and these are females.
Yeah, we tend to be a little bit more.
But this goes to show less women are successful than men at suicide.
Okay, yeah, because men, and this is my pea brain at work here, and based on my experiences, not necessarily about suicide, but about any major life-changing decisions. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to think it through, because it has to be okay with me. It has to be okay with my partner. It has to be okay with my kids. It has to be okay with my parents. It has to be okay.
But that is not the situation here, though. That's not the situation. The situation is that more women have attempted it. So this thought process that you're mentioning, that doesn't go hand in hand with failing at the attempt. What goes hand in hand with failing with the attempt is the method.
The method
that is chosen.
Okay, see, women in particular, most women are not violent by choice. So for
not some of the women I know.
Okay, just go ahead and rethink your circle. Okay, so I'm gonna put me alongside. Okay, can we just be okay? Don't be sorry. Just okay.
I'm being Kevin.
Yes, you're being Kevin, and I'm being me. But I'm gonna put you and I side by side. Okay.
Okay.
Male versus female.
I'm the male.
Really? Anyway,
I'm just making sure to make it clear. Go ahead.
Okay, so I can lower my voice and go, I'm the male.
No, you can't.
But all right, fine, whatever. We're both going through exact same situation, and you're over there on the West Coast. I'm over here on the East Coast, going through the exact same situation.
Okay.
And we both decide that, all right, you know what? I can't deal with this mess. And I have to be very particular about my choice of words because I don't want you to get banned.
Okay, I get it.
So we're both dealing with the same 4-letter word. I'm going to use mess
Okay.
as my 4-letter word. And we don't want to deal with this mess anymore. So we both decide that, you know what, I can't take this. I would be better off if I end this. You're out there on the West Coast thinking the same thing. I'm over here on the East Coast thinking the same thing. I am going to, you decide that, you know what, let me just pick up my gun and put it to my temple and pull the trigger.
Okay. Definitive. Let's go.
I'm over here on the East Coast thinking, oh God, I have a gun, but ew, it's gonna make too much noise, and it's gonna be if I put the gun to my temple, there's gonna be a lot of blood, and I'm not gonna be here to clean it up. And I am that female who's gonna rationalize it down to the last minute and think that I can't do this because I'm going to make a mess in my house. There's going to be blood everywhere. I'm not going to be here to clean it up. Number one. Number two, the people that are going to find me are going to be so traumatized by this selfish decision that I decided to make. No, I can't deal with that. So let me go take some, I got a bunch of prescription pills in my in my medicine cabinet that I have for my bipolar disorder, for my depression, for my anxiety, you name it. I'm going to be taking these pills. I don't want them to work, but it's going to...
You don't want them to work, but you're going to take them for them to work.
But I'm going to take them for them to work because I don't want to really leave here. I'm just reaching out. Help me. I need help.
And this is why you have more attempts by women.
Attempts by women than
and
men
more
who
success
like, you know what?
by men.
More success by men. Men are like, you know what? I can deal with this mess, this SH mess.
Let's get it done.
I just want to, let's just get it done and over with because I am not going to deal with the fallout, the outcome or whatever.
Right.
I just want to end it.
All right. Let's dial everything back a little bit.
Okay.
Take suicide out of the equation for a moment. And let us think men versus women. A woman wants something done. And they're going to mull over it. Just like you said. Correct? As a woman, a man wants something done. What do? They identify what it is and just do it.
And just do it. They don't think about, they're just like, all right, I'm the man. I'm in charge. I need to rectify the situation. I'm just going to step in because this is what I'm expected to do. Rationalizing or not, right or wrong or what. Okay, I'm the man. I'm the alpha male. I'm going to step in. I'm going to get it done.
Well, not all men are alpha males. It's just a thing that, hey, it needs to get done, so let's do it.
Yeah. Well, you call it not alpha male.
Typically, that's how it goes. And what happens is because women come to men to get things done, we don't, and because women will repeatedly come to men to get things done. So, historically, men have been the ones to just get up and get things done. So let's get it done. Just do it. And so, because
do it.
And as you said, as a woman, you're gonna think about the fallout of doing it. So you're gonna try to find the most suitable method, but
for everybody else except you who's in the situation.
Right. But the most suitable method, you're gonna have to think about that too, because it may not work. That explains the attempts versus the successes.
Right.
And so This comes in handy though with those looking into apparent suicides. Because when you look at the chart of methods chosen by men and women, it's not to say that a woman would not choose a method of not choose a gun as her method. But historically, they would
Yeah.
go with something else.
I am looking at this charge and it's the Asians. Man, I'm gonna take on that because I don't believe in hurting myself, and they are 0.5%. Holy, whoa!
Yeah, this is per 100,000.
Yes, the AI and the ANs versus.
Yeah, so you're American
Hispanic?
Indian, you're American Indian Hispanics,
Whoa.
and you're Alaskan Native Hispanics.
Yeah, I'm non-Hispanic.
But you know which country in the US has the most suicide rates or suicide attempts per
No, I
capita
don't know.
per year? Seattle.
No, can you put? No.
Well,
Seattle, Washington?
because it's for the most part wet and dreary. It's depressing.
Oh dear Jesus! I'd rather stay in South Florida, and be sweaty and miserable and hot and humid. I will never move to Seattle.
That's frustrating. But but
I
this
did not know that. Wow, Seattle,
And-
Washington, the United
and
States.
again, you have the environment that plays a factor into this.
Dear, oh
So
man.
whether it is a stressful job, a stressful relationship, or just a depressing environment because of the weather, this acts as a
Seattle,
catalyst.
Washington.
It's wet and cold and dreary more often than anywhere else.
Okay, for those who are listening to me, if you recognize who I am and you consider, and I consider you, and I will tell you that I consider you as important to me, do not move to Seattle, Washington.
You're not helping their tourism right now.
Yo, I am thinking about my people and what I have to deal with if they're going through issues. Do not move to Seattle, Washington.
Well,
Okay, I'm off my soapbox now, and this goes for you. You moved to Seattle, Washington, and yeah, I'm gonna have to rethink about tuning into your broadcast. Do not, please. I'm asking you. I really care about you, and I enjoy the information that you provide and the information that you put out, not just for me, but for my people. Please, can you just please do not move to Seattle, Washington?
I'll make sure to put it on my list of places not to move to.
And I can always just get a bunch of people to just like start stalking you and be like, "Do not move, do not move."
That's reasons to possible reasons to end it right there. Here's another graph. Here's another graph that I had
Okay.
found, and this is fatality
Thanks to the
rates.
research department.
Yeah, fatality rates by suicide. Your firearms, 82.5%. Drowning or submersion, 65.9%. Suffocation or hanging, 61.4%. By poison gas, 41.5%. By jumping, 34.5%. I guess a lot of people are afraid of heights. By
Yeah.
by
No,
drug
but-
poison ingestion, 1.5%, and cutting or piercing, 1.2%. So those are the least
So,
fatal.
does it state whether the percentage is male or female, or it just states it in general?
Well, they don't need to state that here. And why don't they need to state that here? Because we already recognize that men are more successful at committing suicide than women. So
Okay.
so this 82.5%, the majority of that would be men.
Yeah. Because sometimes, and this is my experience, is that men, they don't always men, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, men act on impulse.
No, women act.
Male?
Well, yeah. Men are more
Yeah,
impulsive
men
and women are more emotional.
Impulsive, emotional, right.
Yeah.
So you and I are going through the exact same situation. You're like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going out. Goodbye. See you. Deuces. Boom. I'm over with. I'm going to be sitting up there like, oh my gosh.
No,
I have to think about-
you will not want to get over it, and you'll sit down and think about it and get depressed about not getting over it. And
think of every reason why I should, and have an equally opposing reason why I shouldn't.
all right, check this out. Research has found some key risk factors for suicide in those who engage in self-harming behavior. Things including 1. Being a man. Physical health problems. Previous episodes of self-harm and suicidal intent.
Oh, can I put something else out there?
And that's self-harming behavior. On the list, being a man.
Yeah. Okay. Number one, I am definitely not a man. Number two, and I like to put these things out there in the universe just because somebody might be listening.
Mm-hmm.
If you find me and there's blood involved, it was not self-inflicted.
So
Because
okay, all right, here we go. Let's look. Let's examine that for a moment. Let's unpack that for a moment.
oh Lord, gee. Okay, go ahead.
You, again, as a woman, and if there are any men out there that are listening right now that would want to, you can chime in for a moment.
Come on, please. I need some conflicting discussion here.
Other than me, so that I can end up
No.
being the neutral party. But
No,
let's
you don't
let's go
count,
ahead and
because you
look
need
at
to be
this.
neutral.
So you don't like blood, and you're afraid of heights. So if the situation should arise where you have died under mysterious circumstances,
That
potentially
involves
suicidal.
yes.
If it involves bleeding, you didn't do it.
Nope.
And if it involves jumping from heights, you didn't do it.
Nope. Then it
But-
no longer falls under the purview of suicide. It is homicide.
But here it is, though. If you want to end it, well, you already explained, you already answered the question. Why would you care what ends up at the end? Because you have to deal with the cleanup. Who's going to clean this up? Who's going to see this? Who's going to see me like this? Okay.
Moving on.
One more thing, just to complicate matters. Because it wasn't complicated enough that you were going through what you're going through that led you to the point where you want to end it. You have to complicate it even more by saying what happens after I end it. But that has nothing to do with the method of choice, though. So for an individual, and I'm looking at this and I'm asking these questions not from a position of me being morbid, talking about suicides and making fun, making light of it. I'm looking at it as those investigating an alleged suicide,
Oh, so you're
asking
taking
the relevant questions.
so you're taking the CSI. You're talking about the CSI role now.
Yeah,
Okay.
because not all labeled suicides are suicidal, are suicides.
Oh yeah.
But because either the resources are not available to investigate properly, or they just can't be bothered. This is one person that everybody wants to get rid of anyway. They just went ahead with suicide.
Okay.
Or it's a
And
cover up.
and based on, oh my goodness, you went there. Based on some of your Monday night broadcasts about, high profile cases that are still ongoing investigations that have been portrayed to the general public as suicide, and those who are involved behind the scenes, like, wait a second.
Well, if you
You
control the
know,
information, you control the narrative.
and what is one of your mantras? Change the narrative. Okay? So, looking at things outside the norm, if at least one person sees that, wait a second, there might be some type of, and I'm using the air quotes, conspiracy theory. If at least one person who has a say, who is influential, comes up and say, wait a second, David Fisher.
Hey, careful how you call that name. I want to
Oh
get
man,
done at midnight tonight.
okay, no. David, if you're listening, please don't call in. I need to go to sleep tonight. But I consider both you and Mr. Fisher conspiracy theorists. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but the two of you having the thoughts and the ideas and the facts, and both of you have done your research and come up with these things. These facts. And I apologize. Let me not say things, but facts that support the things that are out there. Yes, you too fall under the category of conspiracy theorists. Because it doesn't fall in line with what the masses say, do, or believe.
Okay. I can work with that.
And you and Mr. Fisher, sometimes I really regret the fact that I tune in to a broadcast that he comes up, because it's like walking across 595 in rush hour behind that vehicle, that you're like, okay, there is so much information that I don't care what the outcome is. I am going to follow this vehicle across the highway in rush hour because I need to get to, I need to get the facts.
So, are you saying my broadcast is akin to this vehicle in rush hour traffic on the highway?
Your broadcast with Mr. Fisher, yes, because
I'm
and
just going.
this is just me because it'll be 1 a.m. and I have to be up at 6 a.m. and I can't shut it off because I am just like, okay, I need to tune in. I need to see what the outcome of this is going to be. And I need to do this and I need to do that. That's just me.
Speaking of David Fisher, though, I was speaking with him today, and there,
Surprise.
there, there is more to come with the judges in Texas acting
You forgot,
illegally on
you
the
forgot,
bench.
you forgot the adjective before judges.
Well, they're still judges. Just they're acting illegally. You have retired judges that are on the bench, not taking oaths and such, and there has been more
Hmm.
recent development in it. But I digress. With tonight, it's real talk night,
Yes, real
and we're
talk.
talking
It's real
about
talk.
suicidal
Um,
behaviors. And
um,
funny enough though, getting caught in activities like this, because it came to it by way of you saying conspiracy theorists and examining facts. And remember, facts aren't always truth, and although the truth will always be a fact, the fact isn't always a truth.
can I just interject a little bit into it?
Go ahead.
I would replace fact with information. Isn't always truth.
Well,
A fact.
here's why I use those words, because when you read a court transcript, the transcript is the fact. What you read on the transcript is a fact. It's a fact that all this information played out
Was
in court
presented.
and was as it is presented. That is a fact. Now, was it the truth? Not all the time.
Okay.
So
Yeah, when I hear the word fact, I'm thinking that okay, it's been
it's proven to be the truth.
vetted, it's proven, to be the
No,
truth,
no,
not just information. Okay.
no.
Thank you for the clarification.
You're welcome. And so, as it comes to tie it back with suicidal behaviors, some of these judges, because of one, disgrace, or two, the financial ramifications, three, the possibility of imprisonment. These are all things that could contribute to suicidal thoughts.
On whose part, the accused or the
No,
officials,
the judges.
or both, or
Well, the
both?
judges are the accused officials. They're
Oh,
both.
Lord.
But what they're accused of can be proven. And it goes
So,
all the way. But what I'm saying is that these are, when you look at grounds for committing suicide, that's typically what the discussion usually surrounds is around. It's around okay, what would cause them to do this? It never goes to, well, not for the average person. I've never heard the average person go, so why did they choose this method? Or is it because they're a man that they chose this versus a woman? Would a woman use this method? The argument usually or the questioning usually is centered around why. Why did they do it? Is there a letter? Sometimes it doesn't even really matter who wrote the letter. But is there a letter? And so, again, as I wrap this up, in a neat little bow. Here we are. At some point in time in the news in the near future, you may come across a report about someone committing suicide. Here are some additional questions. And if it is someone that you're connected with, here are some additional questions to contemplate. Race, gender, age, lethality, which is the method, and the method, how each method is linked to a particular race or a particular gender. Race is even a factor when it comes to suicide. As we had looked at the chart before, the different races and the numbers as it relates to suicide attempts and suicide successes. But race can also be a cause for wanting to commit suicide because of racial tension, because of racial profiling. And so, and same thing with gender, because a young man feeling like he's not much of a man, whether it is because of bullying or because they don't feel comfortable in their own skin, these can lead to, so this falls under the umbrella of causes. Tonight we're looking at some of the other things relating to suicidal behavior. The age, and we didn't really get into the age aspect of it a whole lot.
I think this requires an additional, to because when you look at suicide and when you have to think about age, gender, circumstances, and I don't think that you can cover all of those issues in just one broadcast. So if I could ask a favor to continue this, to look at other causes or other reasons, influences, however you want to look at it, to why certain, to why suicide is an end all be all, because it just doesn't look at it from gender. Because when you select the broad topic of gender, then you're going to have subtopics as, okay, gender. Is it male? Is it female? Is it transgender? Is it, because I was talking to an individual today, and this individual, oh my goodness, I learned so much from her. She is younger than my youngest child. And there is so much every day. I don't speak to her every day, but I try to interact with her as much as possible. And the things, I learned 3 things from her today. She is 19 years old. Okay. I am over 50. And she taught me 3 new things today.
Okay, real quickly, can you share? Or are you allowed to share? Or willing to share?
I'm willing to share. We were talking about today, and I look forward to spending my lunchtime with this 19-year-old that has adopted me as her work mom.
Okay.
And today we were talking about how how people interpret things. And I'm like, why was I introduced to this 19-year-old today solidified it because she has access to things that I would not sit down and research. I found out that on the spectrum of sexuality, of sexual identity, that there are, and I'm like, okay, she let me know that she identified as, and I can't even think of the terminology now, and I'm like, huh? That is on the because you know they have the
DSM-5?
autism spectrum, huh?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the DSM-5.
You know what? I lost count of the spectrum of sexual identity of just identity, not just sexual, but identity in general. And I was actually scrolling on social media, and I came across a post that one of my classmates, and I'm putting my age out there. In the 1980s, the way of blocking someone, they had a rotary phone. And it says how you block someone in the 80s. And I just started laughing, and she looked at me. She goes, "Mom, what's so funny?" And I said, You are not going to understand this." And I showed the post to her. She goes, "I don't get it." And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And I had to, I spent 5 minutes explaining to her how back in the 80s, the way to block somebody, you had a rotary phone. You just take the phone off the hook, and if you try to call the person, you get a
Busy signal. Yeah.
I had to wait.
A lot of
I had
people
to wait
today
for her.
don't even know what a busy signal sounds like. They're like, what's that? So
I am laughing right now because I had to wait 40, and I timed myself. I waited 45 seconds for her to grasp the fact, and I'm like, oh, you know, this is why we were brought together, because she has so much to teach me about millennials, and then I have so much to teach her. Now, her parents are my age, but for some reason, I don't know what it is. I'm not trying to figure it out. Her mother, actually, both her parents and I are the same age.
Oh, okay.
We believe in the same things. We talk about the same. I talk about the same things that she talk about with her parents. When she talk about it with her parents, it goes over her head. It goes from Florida to the West Coast. When her and I discuss it, she connects, and she was like, oh my God, this is what my dad or my mom was trying to talk to me about. Why can't I understand it when they say it to me? But you and I are sitting here face to face, and the moment you say it, it's like, oh,
He planted the
you're
seed.
old.
So, but you have me on the edge of my seat. What are the 3 things that you learned today?
Okay, and I can't, and I'm not going to say incorrect information, but that there are 2 sexual identities that I had never heard of before. And for the life of me, I wish I had written it down, but I can't think about it.
Okay.
That there are 2 additional sexual identities that millennials identify with, that me, who I am, every time that I talk to her, I think about myself as being so ancient. Like, no, Mom, you're not ancient. You're teaching me things. And I'm like, today when I said to her that, oh my God, I learned something from you today, she literally stopped and stared at me for 15 seconds, and I timed her. And I was like, why are you looking at me like that? She goes, what did you just say? I said, I learned something from you. She goes, but you, and I said, if you say my age, I'm going to smack you. But.
So, okay.
I had never heard about a
And this is
sexual
gender
identity.
identity or sexual identity?
Sexual identity. Because she shared with me today that she is attracted physically, mentally, emotionally attracted to a person, regardless of their gender. She looks at intellect. She
She's a
she's
sapiosexual?
attracted. I'm sorry.
She's a sapiosexual?
Yes, that's it. That's it. Sapiosexual. And there was another one. Oh my gosh, I can't think of it. But she met before her current partner. She met someone, and she was just having a flowing discussion with this person, and it came out, and the person asked her, "Okay, so if I was this." Everything that attracted her to this person, but I was in the same gender as you, would you still be sexually attracted to me? And she goes, yes. I was like, what the hell is a sapiosexual? And she looked at me, she goes, Mom, okay. And then she just like educated me. I had never heard this word before today.
That's not true. I've used that word before.
I didn't say I did. I didn't say you haven't heard, but I heard it. I didn't say that it wasn't mentioned before, but I heard it today, and I was like looking at her like, okay, you're 19 years old. You're old. I'm old enough to be your mother. Why haven't I heard?
Was it pansexual was the other one?
No.
Marlon is asking.
No, I heard about pansexual, and I know what pansexual is. It was sapiosexual and another one, and oh my, I wish, and I'm thinking back, but I was so in tune to the fact that she was so overwhelmed that here I am as a senior to her, explaining to her that you have taught me two new things in my life that I have, I have over 4 decades. I've been here 40 years longer than you have, and you're teaching me something. I'm having lunch with her either tomorrow, and I can guarantee you that she's gonna come back because I left, I had to go back to work. We didn't resolve it, and she was like, wait a minute, you're this old, I'm this old, and I'm teaching you something. I don't think that she absorbed the fact that regardless of the significant age difference, that she was able to teach me something.
Was the other one demisexual by chance?
Was it? What is it?
Demisexual?
You know what? It could be. And because it was something that I cannot say for sure, but I know sapiosexual because that one was like, oh dear.
So the sapiosexual is the intelligence part of it.
Yes.
The demisexual is the emotional component to it. So it doesn't really matter what gender you are.
Yes, that's it. Demi and sapio. And I was like, oh, okay.
Here it is again. Though. These are the things to tie it back in as I wrap up, because we got 3 minutes before midnight. These are the things that cause people issues that lead them to the point of suicidal thoughts. Yeah. Because people cannot understand them.
Right.
They can't get what they're going through across, or because they're not accepted in a particular group where they feel they belong, and then they don't feel like they belong anywhere. And
you know what she said?
This is where it should end.
You know what she said? She goes, because like I said, her parents are my age. Mm-hmm. And she feels more comfortable sharing her experiences talking to me versus going to her parents, because I'm not going to say because I have no idea. But she says, you know what it is? Me as a millennial, we are looking for a word that describes what we're experiencing, and we don't want to be told that it's a phase. We want something to identify with. And I identify as a sapiosexual, and when she said that, I looked at her like, what the is a sapiosexual? And then she starts, and I'm sitting there like, I looked at her as Maya Angelou, who is one of my mentors, and, Nelson Mandela. These are people that I would have loved to sit with and listen to. They're giving me gems. Here I'm getting gems from a 19-year-old.
Hey, you can get it from anyone. It's called information.
And I blew her mind when I said, oh my goodness, you have taught me this today that I never heard before. And it just so happened that, my time here is up. I gotta go. And I literally left her sitting there like.
And my time here is up. Funny you should say that.
Stimulate the appetite, not satisfy the hunger. So therefore, I think, Marlon, please, if you're still on, we got to continue this discussion on the next real-time broadcast, because there is so much more that needs to be addressed.
Which one are you saying that I need to continue? Looking at
the broad topic of suicide, because everything that you talked about, that you discussed tonight, she says, now I see the reason why millennials are giving up, because they don't have that word or that reason or whatever to identify to. And they're just giving up and say, you know what? Nobody understands me. Nobody knows me. Nobody does this. And it doesn't just apply to millennials, because people have been going through this issue for years, for centuries. But now that the millennials have allowed themselves to be open to, having a word, having something that they can that they can identify with. I think it comes down to an identity crisis. And I know you have to go, so I am going to leave everybody hanging, because I am just asking for this discussion to continue. And
Marlon says it needs to continue. Okay.
And I will talk to her. I'm having lunch with her tomorrow, because I left her with that look on her face that she needs more. And tonight, after having discussion with you, I need more. Her partner works overnight and she has issues sleeping. So if whenever you decide to continue this,
okay.
All I have to say is, baby girl, I need you to do this. And she's going to be like, yes, mom, I will. Because I'm her work mom.
Okay. Well, on that note, I want to say thank you to you, Althea, for your contribution tonight. Big ups to those who I didn't big up earlier. Marlon, much respect, the general manager of Reggae Global Radio.
Yes, Reggae Global RM. I'm GM.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marlon. It is wow. Thank you.
And you can catch Marlon Mondays and Wednesdays with Real Rockers. And funny enough, on Wednesdays I have Real Talk. Marlon has Real Rockers. Catch him at 7 p.m. Eastern on Reggae Global Radio and affiliates. He is the Reggae Global General Manager. Big respects. He's a walking, talking music encyclopedia. You never have a dull moment with Marlon. So much love, Marley. Thank you all. Thank you to my affiliates, NIE Radio, Reggae Pulse Radio, NIE out of New Jersey, Reggae Pulse Radio out of New York, the Foundation Radio Network, ClintonLindsay.com out of South Florida, PEMGTV.com. Much love to you. The Stew Pot on Zeno FM. Those who are locked in on Clubhouse. I think Clubhouse is still on. Oh my goodness.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, I still have Clubhouse on. Deuces to you, Clubhouse. You got the whole broadcast tonight. Thank you all. Truly appreciate love you guys. Y'all take care until we do it again. Catch you on Saturday for the Saturday Stew on Reggae Global Radio, 8 p.m. Eastern. You know, it's been a while since I flexed my musical muscles. Let's get flexed. And I have a secret ingredient joining us this Saturday, so you don't want to miss that. All right, catch you all when I catch you. Look out for members of your community. Remember, your community is not just the development that you live in, but it spreads far and wide. So those that you pass on the bus, the plane, the boat, the train, whether you walk, ride, or drive, these are members of your community. Do something good for one of them today, because you never know who's going to do something good for you tomorrow. Good morning, good afternoon, good day to you, wherever you are in the world. From right here in South Florida, I bid you a good night. Be good. If you can't be good at it. Miss Althea, until we talk again, thank you very much. You take care.
Pleasure is all mine, and let's continue this discussion in the future.
Got you.
Morning, night,
Greetings and
afternoon.
salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the Stew Pot, where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment.